How's it going, everybody? Today I have an OBDLink MX Plus plugged into a 2023 Mustang Mach-E. I have a custom dashboard set up in the OBDLink app. I've spent about 4 hours making this right here. It's just a phone holder right here, plugged in, to the charger. The reason I did this was actually this dashboard right here does not give you the full details on everything that your car has to say. But this guy tells you what's actually important. So on either side, these red and orange tabs are the rear brake temperature meters. Some of these levels don't have a name or a unit just because I thought it would look graphically bad. And this is the miles per kilowatt hour, so how efficient we're being. And then there's the number version of that. This is miles per hour. As you can tell, it goes up to 120 because the top speed of the 2023 Mustang Mach-E is 120 miles an hour. This is a ride height sensor with a baseline that takes a inverted voltage input from the ride height sensors on the left side of the right side of the car. This is the C temp, or the coolant temperature, how hot the coolant is going through the system right now. So let me show you something real quick as well. On the front of this car, there is a shutter right here. These flaps actually move like this to allow more air in. This little shutter meter right here tells you how far open the shutter actually is, so you can get an idea of how hard the car needs to push to cool down the battery. And as you can see, there's a little blue meter right there. The further that is up there, the further open the shutter is. And then you have the brake in the region. I'll show you that in 1 second. So the red gauge is how hard I am pressing the brake pedal. And now, if I go up to about 20 miles an hour, as you can see, it's already seeing some action. The green bar is the region braking. As you can see, with constant brake pressure, the region goes down. Now, the one biggest problem that there is with this OBDLink system is that the refresh rate is not constant. It's pretty decent right now, but we're only getting like 60 hertz. I've seen it get up to 120 hertz, and I've actually seen it get as low as 6 hertz. So it's very variable, and I kind of wish it wasn't. Maybe in a wired configuration, it would be less variable. But I am going to do a test today where I take it on the freeway and see if I can get this ride height meter lower, right? Or if I accelerate, it raises, as you can see, and then if I decelerate, it lowers, because the front of the car is physically going up and down. So we're gonna take it on the freeway real quick. As you can see, we have an amp readout. Right now it says we're using 70 amps roughly. If I gun it real quick, goes all the way up to 1,000 amps, and then it comes back down to minus 166 as we use the region braking. I believe it can go past 1,000 amps because I haven't actually done too much calibration and it did just top out. You can technically push the brake ultra hard and get it to clip into the other meter. However, when you're driving, you are basically never going to press the brakes that hard because that is insane stopping power with the Brembos on this car. Mileage / kilowatt hour average is 0.55 because we did just start this trip and we have not been the most economic. But if you are really gentle with your brakes and you're gentle with your acceleration, you can sometimes get that up to about 4. The main thing I am testing for right now is the ride height change as I go into higher speeds like 70 to 80 miles an hour, because this car does have a few different features for keeping it aerodynamic and relatively glued to the ground. So I just want to see how well those will work. Now, one issue that I have not figured out the outcome for is actually getting a unit readout for the ride height. Basically what that means is I can't make it tell me how many feet above the ground I am, or how many millimeters, centimeters above the ground I am. It will only give me a voltage output. And when it comes to actually designing these clusters, this app is very primitive compared to other graphic design applications that I've used. However, the reason I do stick with it, even through its primitiveness, is because it gives you the data readouts. So as you can see, we're using about 70 amps once again when we're coasting. That's pretty much all it uses. Now, there is another flaw with this system. The amperage readout is just the battery current readout. It's not the throttle control, if that makes any sense. So if you use a lot of air conditioning power, or if you have some accessory that's connected to it, like you use this in a F-150 Lightning and you have some high powered appliance, you will probably see the energy load meter go up. if it uses more amps. As you can see, we're getting into those higher speeds. Hopefully I can merge with no problems into the fast lane. Sweet. All right, about 70 miles an hour. Interestingly, the ride height is still very fluctuant, even at 80. Now, the reason the ride height sensors exist is mainly to give a point of data for calculation to the MagneRide system for the active damping. However, I'm thinking there's maybe some kind of averaging going on with that, because the ride height is fluctuating around the original base point even at 80 miles an hour, and it is actually pushing up to keep the vehicle at the same ride height. But yeah, I also do really like the point that I was able to mount the phone. It feels very unobtrusive. If you want to copy this for your own doings, feel completely free to do so. If you are tapping the brake pedal, there is a 1 and 0 value that can tell a gauge if you're tapping it. However, OBDLink's app does not have like lights you can assign to binary values. So if you tap the brakes, you do have to make a gauge that rockets from 0 to 1, and then just have that big gauge be the indicator for braking. I'll show a video on screen right here of what it kind of looks like. As you can see, it goes up instead of just on-off flashing. It kind of fades in a little bit. Doesn't look the best, and it could definitely benefit from being an actual like indicator instead of a gauge. But yeah, the test actually gave me a result that I was not expecting going on the freeway, because the ride height was the same. The voltage given from the ride height sensors did remain pretty much constant as we were going 80 miles an hour compared to when we were going 20, which I was not really expecting. As you can see with this red and the green bar on the right, that is the brake value. That is the brake value, and it is the, holy crap. As I was saying, the green and the red is regen brake level. I am the most proud about that, just because the values, like the amount of time I had to spend getting those gauges correct was just almost unholy. And it does look like the refresh rate is staying pretty constant throughout our entire video here, which I do definitely enjoy. I want to say, when you go into like more crowded areas such as heavy traffic and big cities, Bluetooth interference can mess with the signal, and the refresh rate for the communication between the phone and the receiver is brought down to about 6 hertz. Oh, this guy's got some balls if he's trying to put the pedal to the metal after spinning out like that last time. Definitely a smelly vehicle. Oh, wow, dude, he was going like 50, and this guy just completely passed him. I'll be damned. We got a need for speed over here. Now, if we do some brake tests real quick. Kind of just messing with some of the stuff in our car here, trying to bypass some of that regen that we get when we hit that brake pedal. You can see these blue bars on either side are indeed going up, because the temperature of the Brembo discs on either side of the car, the rear side specifically, are rising in heat. So those thermometers are telling me that it's getting to about 260 degrees Fahrenheit, roughly, just because the yellow is in the upper 300s, and then the red is in around 450 degrees Fahrenheit. So as you can see, I use the brakes a lot, and the brake temperature sensors did give a higher value, which is definitely very good. If you want to use the Mach-E here for a track car, I would definitely recommend getting this OBDLink just purely for the brake temperature sensors, because there is no option whatsoever in the stock Ford Sync system that gives you any information about your brake temperature. Definitely take a look at the OBDLink MX, just because these fun gauges are like so cool to me. And generally, you know, again, if you're not in super heavy traffic, they work pretty well.